You're listening to a breathtaking piece of music, and as the crescendo hits, an involuntary shiver runs down your spine. Or perhaps you're watching a terrifying scene in a film, heart pounding, when you look down and see the tiny hairs on your arms standing at attention. It's a familiar yet deeply strange sensation, the sudden eruption of goosebumps across your skin. But what is this odd, primal reaction? Why does our body, in moments of cold, fear, or even profound beauty, suddenly try to make itself prickly? To understand this, we need to look closer at our own skin. It turns out, this phenomenon has a scientific name, piloerection. The name comes from the Latin for hair, pilus, and to stand up, erectio. It's a completely involuntary reflex, something you have no conscious control over, much like your heartbeat or breathing. Imagine your skin as a vast landscape, dotted with millions of tiny hair follicles. Attached to the base of each of these follicles is a microscopic muscle, no bigger than the head of a pin, called the Arrector Pili muscle. When your body decides to trigger this reflex, your nervous system sends a signal to these millions of tiny muscles, ordering them all to contract at once. As each Arrector Pili muscle tightens, it pulls the hair it's attached to into a vertical position. This same pull creates a small depression where the follicle sits and causes the surface area immediately surrounding it to bunch up and protrude. The result is what we call a goosebump, or in more formal terms, cutis anserina, literally skin of a goose, because of its resemblance to the skin of a plucked bird. Essentially, every goosebump you've ever had is the result of a coordinated microscopic workout happening all across your body. This entire process is orchestrated by our sympathetic nervous system, the very same system responsible for our famous fight-or-flight response. And that's our first major clue. Goosebumps aren't just a random quirk. They are deeply tied to our core survival instincts. But to truly grasp why this happens, we have to travel back in time, way back. Billions of years of evolution have shaped every species on this planet, including our own. The goosebump is a ghost of our evolutionary past, a message from ancestors who looked very different from us. For these ancient, much hairier relatives, piloerections served two critical purposes for survival. The first was warmth. Imagine an early hominid, or any furry mammal for that matter, living on the plains of Africa or enduring the chill of an ice age. Unlike us, they were covered in a thick coat of fur. When the temperature dropped, their nervous system would trigger piloerection. The contraction of all those Arrector Pili muscles would raise their entire coat of fur. This action trapped a layer of air right next to the skin. Air is a fantastic natural insulator, and this trapped pocket would act like a built-in thermal blanket, significantly reducing heat loss and helping the animal stay warm. In short, it was like putting on a puffy down jacket that was woven directly into your biology. Today, for humanity, this function is almost entirely useless. We've lost the dense coat of fur our ancestors had. When we get cold and our hairs stand on end, the insulating layer of air they trap is so negligible, it provides no real warmth. And yet, the ancient wiring remains. It's a vestigial trait, a biological echo from a time when our species was a very different kind of animal. The second, and perhaps more dramatic purpose, was defense. The fight-or-flight response isn't just about preparing the body to run or fight, it's also about intimidation. Think of a house cat, suddenly terrified by a loud noise. Its back arches, and its fur stands on end, making it appear almost twice its normal size. Or consider a porcupine, which raises its quills, which are just modified specialized hairs, to present a formidable and dangerous barrier to a predator. This is piloerection used as a bluff. For our distant mammalian ancestors, being confronted by a predator would trigger a massive surge of adrenaline. This adrenaline would prepare their muscles for action, but it would also contract their Arrector Pili muscles, causing their fur to bristle. This visual display made the animal look bigger, more aggressive, and more dangerous. It was a last-ditch effort to intimidate a threat into backing down without having to engage in a potentially fatal fight. Fast forward to today. We no longer have predators stalking us in the tall grass, but our nervous system doesn't know that. When you watch a horror movie and the jump scare finally comes, your brain perceives a threat. It doesn't matter that your conscious mind knows it's just a movie. Your ancient primal threat detection circuits fire up anyway. Adrenaline floods your system, your heart races, and, you guessed it, your Arrector Pili muscles contract. Goosebumps erupt on your skin. It's the same biological reaction your ancestor would have had staring down a saber-toothed cat. Your body is trying to make you look bigger and more intimidating, a futile but fascinating gesture from a bygone era of evolution. So, goosebumps are for warmth and for fear. It seems straightforward enough. But what if we get them when we're neither cold nor scared? What about that sublime moment in a concert? Or the swell of emotion watching a heroic act on screen? Or the awe you feel staring up at a sky full of stars? This phenomenon, often called frisson or an aesthetic chill, is where the story of goosebumps becomes a story about what it means to be human. Why would an experience of profound beauty or emotional connection trigger a physical response associated with animal survival? It turns out, the answer lies in the complex and often paradoxical wiring of the human brain. When we experience something deeply moving, like a powerful piece of music, specific regions of our brain light up. Neuroscientists have observed activity in the brain's reward circuit, particularly an area called the nucleus accumbens. This is the same part of the brain that gives us a feeling of intense pleasure in response to fundamental rewards like delicious food, falling in love, or achieving a long-sought-after goal. This activation releases a flood of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. So, we have a clear neurological basis for the pleasure. But where does the fear-based reaction of goosebumps come from? One of the most compelling theories suggests that it's all about surprise and anticipation. Great art, especially music, is a master of suspense. A piece might build slowly, creating a sense of anticipation for a resolution. When that resolution finally arrives, in a crashing crescendo, a stunning high note, or an unexpectedly beautiful chord change, it can be so powerful and sudden that our brain momentarily interprets it as a shock. For a split second, this overwhelming auditory stimulus triggers the ancient, non-conscious part of our brain that screams, "Threat!" Something loud and unexpected is happening. This fires up the sympathetic nervous system and its fight-or-flight pathway, releasing a tiny bit of adrenaline and causing piloerection. But, almost immediately, our highly evolved frontal cortex, the seat of our consciousness and reasoning, catches up. It assesses the situation and concludes that there is no danger. In fact, it recognizes this stimulus as a source of intense pleasure and safety. So, what does this all mean? It means you experience a fascinating neurological collision. You get the physical, primal response of fear, the goosebumps. At the exact same moment, you get the cognitive, emotional response of euphoria and pleasure from the dopamine rush. Your ancient lizard brain is startled for a millisecond, but your conscious, human mind is enraptured. This positive false alarm creates a unique and powerful blended experience. A shiver of what feels like fear, overlaid with a wave of pure elation. Evidence suggests that the people who experience frisson most often tend to be those with personality traits like openness to experience. They are more curious, have more active imaginations, and are more appreciative of beauty. Their brains may be wired to make stronger connections between the auditory cortex, which processes the sound, and the brain's ancient emotional and reward centers. In short, they are more susceptible to being hijacked by beauty. Ultimately, the goosebump is a tiny, fleeting bump on the skin, but it tells a grand story. It's a story of evolution, a physical remnant connecting our modern, relatively hairless bodies to the furry, vulnerable creatures we once were. It's a physiological ghost, a relic from a time when survival depended on staying warm and looking fearsome. But it's also a testament to the beautiful complexity of human consciousness. It shows how our brains can take an ancient, primitive survival reflex and repurpose it, transforming a signal of fear into a marker of profound awe and connection. So, the next time you feel that strange shiver and see those bumps rise on your skin, take a moment to appreciate what's happening. Your body is telling you a story written in the language of biology, a story billions of years in the making. It's a reminder that inside our modern minds, a primal animal still lives, an animal that can be moved to shiver not just by the cold or by a predator in the dark, but by the sheer, overwhelming beauty of a perfect melody. It is, in its own small way, a physical manifestation of wonder itself. If you enjoyed this story of human wonder, please subscribe to keep exploring the science of what makes us tick.